There are a lot of expensive skins in CS2, but there are also some hidden gems for quite cheap, so today I'm going to be showing you 3 cheap skins for every weapon in CS2. Every skin will be around $1 or cheaper, and every skin I'll be showing you will be in field tested unless stated otherwise. Every price will be from the Steam Marketplace as it's the most accessible, but remember that prices can fluctuate, so I doubt every price here will be accurate by the time you watch this. And remember to check out third-party sites, such as these, for a possibly better deal. This video is also the third in my series of cheap skin videos, but it's the second featuring skins under $1. If you're interested in more skins under $1, check out this video, and for skins under $5, check out this video. And if you wanted to recommend a skin you find underrated, check out those videos anyway, because I might have already beaten you to it. And lastly, if this video helps you out at all, maybe leave a like, subscribe, or just let me know what you bought. So, with all that said, let's get into these skins. Starting with the P2000, we have Urban Hazard at 11 cents. This skin doesn't look like much, but I quite like the rugged futuristic military type vibe it has going on, and I think you could do a lot worse for the price. Next for the P2000 is Imperial at 27 cents. I love the deep red and gold color scheme, especially with the gold pinstriping, but unfortunately this skin wears pretty poorly. However, you can pick up a minimal wear one for only 9 cents more. Finally, for the P2000 is Acid Etched at 57 cents. This skin is obviously for people who like vibrancy and pretty simple overall, but I think an overlooked detail is the little 4-leaf clover that shows up with certain patterns. Moving on to the USP-S, we have Desert Tactical at 27 cents. For those of you that like military style skins, I'm sure you'll like this, and I think the Desert Brown with the subtle camo on the slide contrasts the red trigger really well. Next for the USP-S is Torque at 93 cents. I'm a big fan of the yellow accents throughout, and along with the white and black, it sort of looks like something out of Mass Effect. Finally, for the USP-S is Alpine Camo at $1.95. Now, I know what you're thinking, this skin is a bit pricey for a video like this, but I liked it way too much to not include it. And as a default pistol, you'll be seeing it every game, so it might be worth it to splurge a little. Or maybe I'm just a sucker for purple. Moving on to the Glock 18, we have Winterized at 10 cents, another military style skin, but I really like the winter themed camo, and the beige next to the dark blue looks great. Next for the Glock 18 is High Beam at 16 cents in factory new. This skin is float cap, making minimal wear very slightly more expensive. Regardless, this skin looks great for the price, and you can find some really unique patterns. Finally, for the Glock 18 is Block 18 at $1.29. The texture work done on this skin is phenomenal, and at the right angles, the blocks on the skin really pop, and I love both the clear Lego inspiration and the various colors used. Moving on to the P250, we have Cassette at 8 cents. This skin is a fan favorite I've repeatedly been leaving out in favor of more unique skins, but I can't deny how good it looks despite the simplicity. Although I would recommend spending the extra 4 cents for factory new, as it wears badly. Next for the P250 is X-Ray at 39 cents. I'm a sucker for X-Ray style skins, and I love the blue tint the skin has, but for only 2 cents more, I'd recommend getting one in minimal wear. Finally, for the P250 is Franklin at 75 cents. I will admit I'm not the biggest fan of this skin, but I can't tell you it isn't unique, and it accomplishes its look well enough. Moving on to the 5.7, we have Scrawl at 9 cents. For those of you that like a rugged graffitied aesthetic, you're almost sure to like this. The artwork is great, and I love the blue and yellow with the subtle bits of red. Next for the 5.7 is Hybrid at $1.12. This skin is a bit on the pricier side, but I love the silver and purple, or for 13 cents cheaper, you could get it in Battle Scarred, which makes the skin much darker if you're a fan of how that looks. Finally, for the 5.7 is Urban Hazard at $1.30. Again, it's unfortunately on the pricier side, but I'm a big fan of the red contrasting the gray camo. Moving on to the Tech 9, we have Slag at 14 cents. This skin is fairly simple, and I like the metallic barrel, but the design on the lower clearly steals the show. The texturing is so well done and reminds me of a topographic map. Next for the Tech 9 is Flash Out at 36 cents. This skin obviously plays into the look of a flashbang, and even though I'm not the biggest fan, I'd say it accomplishes its look well, and it's a creative way to utilize the weird design of the Tech 9. Finally, for the Tech 9 is Sandstorm at 59 cents. I have no idea if this is supposed to be camo or if it's just a cool design, but I think the purple and beige work together surprisingly well. Moving on to the CZ75 Auto, we have Distressed at 12 cents. This skin plays with a worn copper aesthetic and achieves it rather well. And if you're the type to match skins, it'd work well with the Corinthian skin for the Deagle. Next, for the CZ75 Auto is Red Aster at 49 cents. The metallic red and white look great together, and I like the subtle detail of the checkered pattern on the grip. Finally, for the CZ75 Auto is Tigress at 77 cents. When it comes to contrast, this skin's up there. The bright orange against the black really pops, and I like how the creator chose to fade the colors on the grip. Moving on to the dual Berettas, we have Elite 1.6 at 24 cents. This skin is very simple, but if you want to take the slightly aged look of the Berettas and transform them into something you'd see in an action movie, this skin executes that look really well. Next, for the dual Berettas is Tread at $1. Honestly, I think this skin is a bit pricey for what you get, but the engravings are really well done, and I'm a fan of the gold. Finally, for the dual Berettas is Hydro Strike at $1.75. This skin is among the most expensive in this video, but I'd consider it worth every penny. I mean, come on, who doesn't want their Berettas to look like a water blaster? Moving on to the Desert Eagle, we have Calligraffiti at 27 cents. For the price, this skin is absolutely amazing. I love the calligraphy on the slide, and the subtle inclusion of other colors throughout looks great. This is a super underrated skin. Next, for the Desert Eagle is Blue Ply at 31 cents. This skin is as it says, it looks like blue wood. It's fairly simple, but I like the pattern throughout, and the blue and black just looks great. Finally, for the Desert Eagle is Tilted at 66 cents. This is another phenomenal skin for the price. I adore the colorway on it. It looks so bright, which is something you don't really see with these cheaper Deagle skins. Moving on to the R8 Revolver, we have Junkyard at 21 cents, a skin I'm surprised wasn't included in my other videos. For those who like worn appearances, this is for you, and I personally like the CSGO branded fruit sticker on the grip. Next, for the R8 is Tango at 23 cents. This skin is beautiful. The subtle engravings against the red roses look so good. It's so unfortunate that it's an R8 skin. Finally, for the R8 is Amber Fade at 72 cents, but you can get it in Minwear for 70 cents. Anyway, this is pretty much just a discount version of Fade, but I think there's a little beauty in how it looks washed out. Moving on to the SMGs, starting off with the MP9, we have Black Sand at 10 cents. This is another basic military style skin, not much else to say aside from that. Next, for the MP9 is Modest Threat at 13 cents. I like the orange on the skin, and the gray industrial style design works surprisingly well against the orange. Finally, for the MP9 is BioLeak at 20 cents. The vibrant green is definitely the selling point for this skin, but it unfortunately wears poorly, so try your best to find a good float. Moving on to the Mac 10, we have Lightbox at 13 cents. This skin is pretty simple aside from the super cool optical illusion on the back. I love the purple accents, and this skin sort of gives me Tron vibes. Next, for the Mac 10 is Lapis Gator at 76 cents. I try to stay away from solid color skins, but the unique scale-like texture and small variances in color sets it apart from the actual solid color skins. Finally, for the Mac 10 is Pipsqueak at $1.56. Another unfortunately expensive skin, and I was debating including it, but I just love the bright blue and white, and the cute little rat on the side. Moving on to the PP Bizon, we have Candy Apple at 9 cents. Speaking of, this is just a basic solid color skin. The red looks great, but there's not much else to say otherwise. Next, for the PP Bizon is Osiris at 81 cents. The black, amber, and white looks good, and the design is pretty futuristic, but unfortunately, this skin wears pretty badly. Finally, for the PP Bizon is Lumen at $1.01. This entire skin plays off of the ridiculous magazine of the Bizon, turning it into a flashlight, which is pretty creative, but this skin has almost nothing else going for it. Moving on to the MP7, we have Armor Core at 13 cents. This skin is fairly simple, but I do like the brushed steel look it has going on, especially against the black. Next, for the MP7 is Power Core at 87 cents. This skin clearly plays off of a power tool, and it does that well. I always think of John Deere when I see it, and the green and yellow work surprisingly good. Finally, for the MP7 is Just Smile at $1.15. This is another brightly graffitied skin, and I love how much the purple pops the lower the float. Moving on to the MP5 SD, we have Necro Jr. at 9 cents. The art on this skin is amazing, and I love the variations in color on the little guys throughout the skin. Next, for the MP5 SD is Statics at 24 cents. This skin sort of gives me a sportswear aesthetic, and I think it works surprisingly good on the MP5, and the blue looks great. Finally, for the MP5 SD is Neon Squeezer at 25 cents. I'm beginning to see a pattern, as this is another brightly graffitied skin. Again, the colors used complement each other great, and I love the vibrancy. Moving on to the UMP45, we have Motorized at 13 cents. The texturing and detail on this skin for only 13 cents is absolutely wild, and if you're not a fan of the silver at low floats, it becomes more rusty at higher floats. Next for the UMP45 is Moonrise at 42 cents. The art on this skin is great, and I love the way the pink and purple blends, but it unfortunately wears pretty badly. Finally, for the UMP45 is Riot at 46 cents. This is another basic military skin. The green and yellow camo looks good enough, and I guess it fits its niche fine. Moving on to the P90, we have Grim at 14 cents. This skin is very plain as it's mostly just gray, but the green designs on it really pop, and that earns it a place in this video. Next for the P90 is Offworld at 20 cents. This skin is a very nice shade of blue, but the best thing about it is the various details and designs that get scratched in at higher floats. Finally, for the P90 is Vent Rush at 57 cents. This skin is also pretty rugged looking, but I like the contrast of the red and orange against the silver and gray. Moving on to the rifles, starting off with the FAMAS, we have Cyano-Spatter at 8 cents. This skin is pretty boring, there aren't many good cheap FAMAS skins left, but I do like the blue used. Next for the FAMAS is Halftone Wash at 34 cents. This skin grew on me, I like the blue used for the accents, and the pattern throughout looks pretty good. Finally, for the FAMAS is a Neural Net at 93 cents. Personally, I wouldn't consider this skin worth nearly $1, but I could understand how someone could like the yellow used. Unfortunately though, it wears poorly. Moving on to the Galil, we have Black Sand at 23 cents. Yet another desert camo skin, but honestly, I think it works particularly well on the Galil, somehow. Next for the Galil is NV at 35 cents. As its name suggests, this skin is meant to mimic night vision with a really striking green used to outline some features. Finally, for the Galil is Vandal at 96 cents. I'm not the biggest fan of rugged skins, but again, I think this skin really works for the Galil, and I like the dark green. Moving on to the M4A4, we have Converter at 50 cents. Unfortunately, I'm out of good cheap M4A4 skins, so the next will be a bit expensive. But anyway, the only somewhat decent thing about this skin is the red. Next for the M4A4 is Etchlord at $1.16. This skin is pretty simple, but I like the shine and the snake etching, and if you're not a fan of the silver, you can get it cheaper and rustier and battle scarred. Finally, for the M4A4 is Turbine at $1.80. This skin has some incredibly well done texturing, but the star of the show is the light that flashes when you fire. Moving on to the M4A1S, we have Boreal Forest at 9 cents. Despite my general disdain for camo skins, I really like Boreal Forest and Brightwater on the M4A1S. I have no idea what it is, but they just work. Next for the M4A1S is Wash Me Please at 28 cents. I think this skin is super underrated. The colors on the body remind me of the Sandstorm skins, but the blue used for the barrel and buffer tube is just so nice. Finally, for the M4A1S is Very Camo at 71 cents. Unlike Boreal Forest, I'm not really a fan of the skin. I think it's too muted and brown, but hey, that might be just your taste. Moving on to the AK-47, we have Olive Polycam at 38 cents. This skin is a small step up from basic camo, and the green isn't too bad, but unfortunately it's one of the only two AK options I have. Finally, for the AK-47 is Steel Delta at $1.75. The furniture has a really unique design, and I love the engravings. This is also the last AK skin, as I've covered every other good cheap AK skin in my other videos. Moving on to the AUG, we have Ricochet at 16 cents. This skin is mostly a simple gray, but the turquoise patterning throughout provides a nice, bright streak of color. Next for the AUG is Lux Trim at 24 cents. When it comes to sleek, sophisticated looking skins, this is it. The silver body pairs phenomenally with the bronze accents. Finally, for the AUG is Plague at 94 cents. This skin is quite gloomy looking, but the raised silver design throughout looks so good against the dark base. Moving on to the SG553, we have Ol Rusty at 8 cents. This is another worn skin, but I love how the faded blue looks against the rusty body and red decal. Next for the SG553 is Cyberforce, also at 8 cents. This skin screams cyberpunk with the stylized text on the side, and I love how the red accenting pops on lower floats. Finally, for the SG553 is Triarch at 47 cents. This is another basic military skin, but desert camo is hard to mess up, and I really like the orange accenting throughout. Moving on to the SSG08, we have Disaster at 13 cents. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the skin, but it was largely requested, so I had to include it. It's simple, but it's nice. Next for the SSG08 is Azure Glyph at 21 cents. The bronze on this skin is quite nice, but the selling point is definitely the striking Azure, and it really pops against the bronze. Finally, for the SSG08 is Ghost Crusader at 66 cents. This skin also reminds me of Mass Effect. I love the astronautical vibe it has, and the blue accents look great. Moving on to the AWP, we have Safari Mesh at 8 cents. I normally wouldn't include Safari Mesh, but it's one of the 2 decent AWP skins I still haven't put in a video. Also, Safari Mesh is overhated. Finally, for the AWP is Phobos at $1.81. This skin is pricey, but it's also the last good AWP skin left. Like I said, I really do recommend checking those other videos out. Anyway, I love the industrial aesthetic of this skin. Moving on to the Scar 20, we have Outbreak at 17 cents. This skin's pretty plain, but I do like the various shades of green used, although unfortunately, it wears pretty badly. Next for the Scar 20 is Carbon Fiber in minimal wear at 18 cents. This skin is very basic, but if you like carbon fiber, it looks somewhat like carbon fiber. Not much else to say. Finally, for the Scar 20 is Assault at 21 cents. This skin has an industrial type style, and I think the worn look is pretty well contrasted by the white and baby blue. Moving on to the G3SG1, we have Ventilator at 13 cents. This skin is pretty subtle, but it has a really sleek and elegant look that somehow works pretty well on the bulky G3SG1. Next for the G3SG1 is Stinger at 53 cents. The yellow on this skin really stands out against the dirty looking gray, and while it's not my cup of tea, I can understand liking it. Finally, for the G3SG1 is Scavenger at 69 cents. This is another worn, put together looking skin, hence the name, and it accomplishes that look pretty well. Moving on to the shotguns, starting off with the Nova, we have Dark Sigil at 13 cents. The artwork on this skin is really well done, and the worn wood looks great against the black and silver. Next for the Nova is EXO at 21 cents. The purple and silver on this skin works quite well, and because it darkens rather than scratches, you won't have to worry about float too much. Finally, for the Nova is Yorkshire at 96 cents. The bronze and gold gives a pretty unique look, but I especially like the burnt metal coloring at the end of the barrel. Moving on to the XM1014, we have Irezumi at 13 cents. Honestly, this skin grew on me a lot. The color isn't too bright or flashy, but it looks good, and the engravings are really well done. Next for the XM1014 is Quicksilver at 27 cents. The gray and silver with the hints of green looks surprisingly good, and I like the sort of topographic looking patterning. Finally, for the XM1014 is Teklu Burner at 86 cents. This skin has a fairly simple design of just yellow-orange flames, but this skin really shines with higher floats as the flame gets redder and the green gets darker. Moving on to the Mag 7, we have Insomnia at 9 cents. This skin is a deep red and black, and while I do like the colors and the fish, I will admit the huge face is a bit unsettling. Next for the Mag 7 is Metallic DD-Pat at 19 cents in minimal wear. This skin is fairly simple, featuring silver digital camo, but I like the shininess and the pattern, despite its simplicity. Finally, for the Mag 7 is Petroglyph at 47 cents. This skin is a bit bland, but I like the bits of red, and the designs on the skin sort of give me an Aztec vibe. Moving on to the sawed-off, we have Spirit Board at 8 cents. This skin is clearly based off a Ouija board, and I love the color used for the wood. It complements the black and silver really well. Next for the sawed-off is Breaklight at 72 cents in minimal wear. This skin is very simple, just a bright red with white spirals, but I love how vibrant it is. Finally, for the sawed-off is Analog Input at $1.12. I love the shades of the individual colors used, and the red accents on the barrel look amazing. Moving on to the LMGs, starting off with the M249, we have System Lock at 21 cents. This skin is pretty basic, but the red is very striking and contrasts nicely. Next for the M249 is Hypnosis at 24 cents. This skin is also pretty basic, but somehow in the opposite way, if that makes sense. The light blue is a nice shade, but the star of the show is definitely the hypnotic optical illusion. Finally, for the M249 is Spectrogram at 34 cents. This skin is pretty subtle, but I love the various colors used and the patterning throughout. It sort of gives a holographic vibe. And finally, moving on to the Negev, we have Desert Strike at 13 cents. Another basic desert-style military skin, but again, it does what it does well enough. Next for the Negev is Man O' War at 16 cents. The royal blue with the gold accents looks really good, but it might be worth spending the extra cent to get it in min wear. Finally, for the Negev is Wallbang at 24 cents. This skin is a worn-looking red and is covered in graffiti, but the most unique thing here is the drum pouch being a bright aquamarine. It's so out of left field, but somehow works. So, that's 3 more cheap skins for every weapon in CS2 under $1, for the most part at least. Let me know what budget you want to see next, or what other video ideas you want to see, but this will probably be my last $1 tier video. I've sort of run out of skins at that price point. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you dislike the video, dislike it. And if you want to know when I release new videos, subscribe. And for those who've stuck by the channel waiting for an upload the past year and want to know why I haven't released any new videos, I'm just unfortunately not really into Counter-Strike anymore. I could continue to make videos like this that don't require much upkeep with the game, but I'm worried it'll seem soulless or passionless, which I don't want because I actually value your time. So, if you thought this video was of acceptable quality and you want to see more, regardless of my lack of interest in CS, just let me know. Although, unless I get any sponsorships, I'll likely just continue releasing videos as I please and at my own pace, so I hope you're okay with that too. Anyway, I am Beepy, and I'll see you in the next video.